Welcome back to Your Life is the Medicine. I am Sonny Miles. I am your host. Thank you for being here. Today, I really want to talk about summer and summer health and what the season of summer means to me and how I come into relationship or maintain relationship with my body and my needs as we have transitioned into summer. So that's where we're going. I just wanted to share at the beginning a little bit about sort of what I've been playing with in my own life, which has nothing to do with summer, but with growth and with energy and with really becoming me and showing up the way that I want to show up in various situations. And so I've done a lot of work with different people, and I really have some of the people that I have learned a lot from who have very much been people I am listening to over the last couple of years are Dr. Amanda Hansen, the Midlife Muse, and then also Amanda Francis, who teaches about money and manifestation and spirituality and authenticity. And so one day I was sort of really working on my own energy, on where I'm getting stuck in building the business, building the work, doing the work that I want to do, being who I want to be, and really realize that many, many times, especially in my work in the hospital where I often feel like I don't have a lot of agency to change the things that don't work for me, right? Like shared workspaces are very hard for me to require a lot more cognitive effort for me to filter out what people are talking about around me and to focus on my work. So that's just a small example. I don't really have a lot of agency over that because there aren't private workplaces, right? I can go sit on a computer on the floor. I can go to the doctor's lounge, but those are also shared spaces, or I can sit in the palliative care room, which is a shared space with 4 of us and is a really difficult place for me to try to focus. And so often, and I realized I have done this for years, I am becoming energetically small. That my way of protecting myself in these situations that are hard, that I don't feel like I can change, is to just kind of shrink. And so in my own work, in my own life, I want to be energetically expansive and big and radiant. Like I've really always connected to that quality of my name, Sonny, of like shining my own light out in the world, shining brightly, radiating. So I had this moment where I realized how often I am energetically shrinking, and that one of the steps for me to grow into and to create what I want to create is to energetically inhabit this much bigger, more radiant energy and space. And so over the last month or so, I've just been noticing this, like when I start to shrink and when I really want to pull on this radiant energy. And what I've noticed is when I almost, the way that I've been talking about it is as if I put on like a powerful cape. And so when I put on my powerful cape and I really feel this energy of expansion and of power and of bright, like I feel light. I feel like I am shining my own light outward. And I was even playing with this running yesterday. So I've been trying to get back to running. I have an old hip injury that I have not cared for very well, and I am trying to get back to running in a way that is much kinder and more honoring of what my hip needs and when I'm overdoing it. And so I've been doing short intervals, like I'm running 4 minutes, walking, running 4 minutes. And I was playing with what does it feel like in my 4-minute interval to put on, again, this powerful cape, to be like a powerful runner, to be a strong runner, instead of the like, ooh, one step at a time. I'm just chugging along, right? Like that doesn't have, like that's the energy of survival. That's the energy of getting through it. And what does it feel like to put on that energy of power, that energy of excitement, that energy of thriving? And so I'd invite you to play with that, to notice if there are places in your life that you shrink, and to notice, can you intentionally put on a cape of power or of whatever it is, authenticity, of light, of confidence, whatever it is. And maybe it's a cape, maybe it's a shawl, maybe it's like a suit of armor, whatever visualization works for you. But what do you feel when you put that on? And again, just to give you my experience so that you can borrow it and compare your own, is that when I put that on, I can feel my chest open, right? I can feel my heart center be more open. I can feel that I am strongly grounded into the ground, and I feel strong, and I feel like I am standing up tall instead of this like hiding from the world, hunched over fetal protective position. And so it really is this feeling of like grounded strength and fully occupying my space. So I'd invite you to play with that. And for me, that is part of what summer feels like. It feels like this big, expansive energy. So we transitioned to September. I'm already thinking about fall on June 21st. And I want to talk about summer and how, we view it from different perspectives. And in spring, I talked a lot about the word that came up for me was really emerging and what it felt like to emerge. And again, for me, I really was thinking about the need to be grounded while we emerge, while we bloom, while we reach. Because if you're not grounded and you're reaching or you're blooming, you get top heavy and you kind of fall over. And so that was my theme for spring. And my theme for summer is really this word balance. Summer in Chinese medicine is the most expression of yang, of this outward energy, of this big outward energy. And yet, if we need to find our own balance in that, because if we're like big and yang and active and outward all of the time, we're going to become unbalanced, and most of us will wear out at different points. And so really, I've been sitting with and thinking about, what does balance look like for me? And so when we think about summer from a more traditional approach, and again, I'm talking about Chinese medicine, and I'm not a TCM practitioner, so my knowledge does not have the depth of someone who practices this medicine, but I find even sort of an elementary understanding of it helps me be in relationship with my body more deeply. And same thing with Ayurveda. And so in Chinese medicine, the element of early summer is fire, and it's associated with the heart and small intestine. And so the heart really is, this connection to joy and to passion. And then there's the small intestine and digestion. And so thinking about, for me, I love summer. I have a lot of joy in summer very easily. And summer is a little bit heavier for me as a 46-year-old woman than it used to be, right? Like, I grew up in the desert. I could be outside. I could run in the heat. I could play soccer in the heat. Like, of course it made me tired, but it didn't really bother me. And like now I have to pay more attention to how much energy I'm expending in the heat versus like waiting for it to be cooler, or if I do something in the heat, then balancing that. And so if we think about what our bodies need in summer, clearly the first thing that comes to mind is more hydration, right? Like, we need to hydrate. And many of us feel better with electrolytes. And so for me, that looks like when I feel really dehydrated, I tend to add an electrolyte packet to my water. because that helps me it feels like I bounce back faster if I've let myself get dehydrated. Other people proactively take electrolytes, like it's part of their routine. They do it every day. And some people feel like they don't need them. And so it's really like a process of trial and error, right? So you hydrate without electrolytes, you see how you feel. Another time, a couple other times, you hydrate with electrolytes and you see if you notice a difference. But it's always this process of trying something and then checking in with your body. So number one is hydration. And I do think we underestimate how important hydration is, because we talk about it. For me, this point was made because I was getting migraines or headaches often in the afternoon. And I had been to many different types of practitioners, and my headaches, mine and many of them, are multifactorial, right? I have a component, there can be a hormonal component, certainly a food component. I'm more susceptible to headaches if I haven't eaten. But what somebody pointed out is like, you always get them in the afternoon. Is it possible you're getting dehydrated? And you know what? It's amazing. Sometimes if I feel a headache coming on and I drink a whole glass of water with electrolytes, sometimes I can prevent the headache. Does that work all the time? No. Is it going to work for everyone? No. I only share it to say that hydration is more important than we often give it credit for. And when we talk about hydration, it's also like the foods that we're eating, right? Like if we're eating watermelon and cucumbers, like they're also giving us cooling hydration versus like the salty chips that are going to make us feel thirsty. And then it's hydrating your skin, right? So attending to your skin, which brings up sunscreen or sun protection of some way of protecting your skin from the sun when you're outside, at least for part of the time that you're outside. So hydration, sun protection, whether that's a hat and long sleeves or whether you choose to use sunscreen, just really attending to what your skin needs. And then food. Food, this is like the season that we get to eat all the strawberries and all the berries and all of like the watermelon and the fresh produce. I trained in San Francisco. So I lived in San Francisco for 7 years, and I lived over the hill from one of the big farmers markets. And so I would always like walk up the hill and then down the other side of the hill. And I loved the farmers market. And I would like fill up these like bags that I could barely carry and trudge back up the hill to my house. And the fruits and vegetables were available, and flowers, like year round. And that is not the case here in northern Colorado. And so like early season farmers markets tend to be like, there were some tomatoes a couple of weeks ago, there was some asparagus, and there's a lot of plants that you can plant in your garden. And now I went to the farmers market last Saturday, and there's more, right? That we had peaches and apricots and more lettuces and zucchini. So we're coming into the kind of fullness of more local fresh produce being available. But this is the time to like really enjoy all of summer's bounty, all of the greens, all of the berries, all of the fruits that feel good in your body, because we want to eat lighter. So most of us probably benefit from less heavy food. We want lighter, easier to digest food. The kind of salads and cucumbers and raw fruits and vegetables have more of a cool quality. And so again, if we're talking about the heat of this season, then those cooling foods can be balancing. And this is the season of like putting some mint in your water or making some fruit water, just like at a fancy spa, and really enjoying, like we come back to that joy, but enjoying tending to yourself and enjoying the gifts of this season. So of course, whenever we talk about food, like there is no one diet recommendation fits everyone, and you know your body best. and your body might need something different than what I'm saying. But in general, this is the season to eat fresh, local produce and to eat lighter to let your digestive system work its best. And then activity and rest are the other two things I was going to talk about. And so summer is the season that many of us like to be really active. We think of a lot of outdoor activities of hiking, of biking, of paddleboarding, of swimming, of all of the things, and of running, of hiking. And those are all really beautiful, right? And especially the outdoor activities that like get us out in nature, like we can feel the breeze, feel the heat, feel the air, see the colors, really connect to our nature and our surroundings. Like that is also a form of nourishment. And so I highly recommend, highly encourage getting outside and doing activities that you love and paying attention to what that balance looks like. Again, are you running at 2 p.m. when it's really hot, and is that the best time for your body? Or would your body benefit from more intense activity earlier when it's cooler or later when it's cooler? Again, intense activity later always has the risk of affecting sleep. So if you have more trouble getting restorative sleep, then activity late in the evening is probably not what you want to try, but maybe it's trying to get that activity in earlier. It's also like balancing more intense activity with less intense activity. So balancing something like a slow flow yoga class with running or biking or something more intense. And so just really, again, everything I ever say is about coming into relationship with your body and listening to your body. And so really paying attention to, if you're doing more vigorous activity, how does that make you feel? And if you add in some slower activities, some Tai Chi or yoga or slower walking, like how does that benefit your body? So just paying attention to what balance looks like and thinking about adding some slower activities mixed in with your more intense summer outings or summer activities. And then rest. When I was a Peace Corps volunteer, I lived in Paraguay in an agricultural small community. So there were only about 30 houses in my town. And we had electricity. Not everyone did. And many people did not have running water. And we lived in connection with the seasons. And I'm so grateful now for that gift of having had that experience. And so summer looked like getting up early, getting out in the fields and getting work done while it was cooler. And then people would return home a little bit before lunch, often have some tereré, which is a yerba mate, a cold yerba mate drink, and then have lunch. And then there was a siesta. Like often people either laid down to rest or they would just sit under the shade and visit with each other for an hour or two while it was really hot. And then people would go back to work in the afternoon and they would work till later. And then we would have a much later dinner. Sometimes we'd eat dinner at 10 o'clock at night in the summer. Whereas in the winter and it was cold, like people didn't get up as early. The workday was compressed and we were like in the kitchen around the fire as soon as it got dark. And so really thinking about rest of like, what does the balance of your day look like? Obviously, most of us can't take naps in the middle of the day, but can you give yourself a rhythm where the afternoon is a little bit easier, or you're making sure that you get enough rest at night? So really thinking about what rest looks like for you. For me, it does mean on the weekends often I will take a nap, but not always. And it also means prioritizing sleep and really making an effort to check in with myself and my nervous system as I'm getting ready for sleep. well throughout the day, but especially in the evening as I'm getting ready for bed, if I'm still really dysregulated, I may be able to fall asleep, but my sleep quality won't be good. And it may be that I'm too dysregulated to even fall asleep, right? So when you're thinking about rest and sleep, there's like, what are the rest periods during your day where you give yourself a little break? What does that look like? That may even look like going for a little walk outside to like get natural daylight and to step away and to let your nervous system regulate. Or it may look like doing a little bit of a meditation to give yourself a rest at points in the day. Or it may look like something totally different. But thinking about rest during the day and then thinking about getting enough rest at night. I think often when the daylight hours are longer, there's this tendency to fill them up with more things. And sometimes it's lovely. Like last week, I was taking walks at like 8:30 at night. And I was like, this is amazing. I love being outside. I'm glad that I could walk, because had it been winter, I probably just wouldn't walk, or I'd have to do the treadmill. And so like really enjoying getting to be outside in that like late evening. And yet I typically go to bed at like 9 or 9:15. And so then I was pushing my bedtime, and then I wasn't able to sleep later. So this thing that felt really good, after a few days, I was like, oh, this actually isn't working, because I'm not going to bed at the same time. And then I'm feeling tired the next day. And so just noticing if, as the day is longer, are you trying to shove a lot more things in there, or are you able to give yourself space to rest? So that is all about summer. And again, my most important word is balance. And I wanted to say that balance obviously looks different in each season, right? The balance in winter, the balance in summer, but it looks different over your life too, right? So based on what your body's going through, but also maybe based on what's happening in your job or your life, balance may look really different year to year. So just because you were able to do something last summer and felt good doing it doesn't mean that your body's going to be able to do it the same this summer. And so just really over and over checking in, like, this is how I did things this week. How did it feel? Like, how did I finish the week? Is there something that needs to shift this next week going forward, so that I might be able to tend to my body a little bit better, or I might feel a little bit better? We were talking about joy. Oh, the other thing I wanted to say about joy and summer is really this window into sensuality. So this living through our senses, of connecting to our senses. And summer, with its, often we have more skin showing. At least for me, I'm like, love to wear shorts and a tank top. And I love feeling the air on my skin. Whereas in the winter, like, I'm usually all bundled up. And so feeling the air on my skin, seeing flowers, hearing the birds outside my window at 5 a.m., like, that is really a connection to my senses. And the connection to our senses, like the paying attention in the world, is what lets us see the beauty in the world, or feel the awe of what we're surrounded by and of what we're living in. And so really inviting you to pay attention to your senses. So in the morning, like when you go outside, like, what do you see? What do you hear? What do you feel? Like all of your senses. What do you smell? And I love essential oils, and that's part of that. What they give me is, it's that connection to sense, connection to the plants, but connection to scent. And when you are connecting to your senses, you have to be present. It invites us into the present moment. And that's where all the magic is. The magic is in the present moment. So inviting you in this season to really, to really feel into, to settle into connecting with your senses, and really enjoying the sensual feast of summer. So I have a couple poems to finish with. This is a poem from Brene Brown. This is a quote from Brene Brown about joy. Joy is not a constant. It comes to us in moments, often ordinary moments. Sometimes we miss out on the bursts of joy because we're too busy chasing down the extraordinary moments. Other times we're so afraid of the dark, we don't dare let ourselves enjoy the light. A joyful life is not a floodlight of joy. That would become unbearable. I believe a joyful life is made up of joyful moments gracefully strung together by trust, gratitude, and inspiration. Brene Brown. I'm going to read that last sentence again because it's very potent. I believe a joyful life is made up of joyful moments gracefully strung together by trust, gratitude, and inspiration. And so these moments where we're present, where we're paying attention to nature, paying attention to the beauty around us, paying attention to ourselves, paying attention to our loved ones, those are the moments of joy. Those are the moments of meaning. And the last thing I'm going to read, this classic, is A Summer Day by Mary Oliver. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean, the one who has flung herself out of the grass, the one who is eating sugar out of my hand, who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down, who's gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I have been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? So I'd invite you, if you're able, to just take a moment and really connect to what is summer for you. For me, when I think of summer, I think of light, I think of warmth, I think of joy, I think of the way that we allow ourselves to take more vacations maybe, or do kind of extra things. Like there's a spaciousness and an ease and a wanting to enjoy the moments in summer. And there's delicious fruits, watermelon, peaches, cherries. So just connecting to what is summer for you and what do you really want to cultivate this summer. Spring is really the season of planting, and summer is the season where we get to tend and nourish and grow. So what is it that you're tending to in your body and in your life? What's growing? What are you nourishing over these months? Thank you again for being here. I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful summer, and I look forward to you the next time. I'd love to hear from you about anything that was really meaningful or anything that you disagreed with, anything at all. I'd love to hear how you're receiving what I've shared. Thank you.